For ThunderVision, I'm Mike Benton. The hot stove season continues, and the Thunder added yet another promising young scoring forward with the addition of Dan Bartlett out of Princeton after he led the Tigers last season in the offensive category. Joining me here is Thunder head coach Matt Thomas to talk more about the newest addition. And Matt, yet another forward now that you put on. Tell us more about him.
Well, I think the one thing that jumps off the page to me right away about a guy like Danny Bartlett is, again, we're getting another leading scorer from his college program. And coming from a program that has produced a lot of players that have played for me, Daryl Marcoux, Kyle Hagel, Dustin Sprout, that have all become very good and impact players in the ECHL. But a guy who's coming out playing for a coach, Guy Godowski, who demands nothing but the highest of efforts from his players. And so when you get that combination of a player that's got an offensive touch, but you know that he's been held accountable to play hard in all three zones and to play the team way, you know you're getting something special. But I think when I was doing all my homework on him, the one thing that kept coming back is he's one of the most dynamic one-on-one players potentially available out there. Everyone I talked to said that he can stick handle through anybody. He can stick handle in a phone booth. When it's him and one D man between him and the net, there's a pretty good chance he's going to get around him with some nifty moves. And I kind of right away I lank it into a little bit of a player like Judd Blackwater, who's got that. I think that second level, that NHL level skill, and maybe has a few other holes in his game that he needs to develop. But with that being said, I'm really looking forward to Dan coming in here and being an impact player for us, and a guy who's going to probably take some fans out of their seats with some of the nice moves that he's got.
There's a very popular saying in this business that the hockey world is a small world. With that being said, how does a guy like Daryl Marcoux help bring in Dan Bartlett with both of them playing over at Princeton?
You know what? Obviously, Daryl's getting into his fourth year, and Dan just graduated, so I think they maybe only spent one season together. But again, it's a school with a lot of tradition and a strong alumni group, and they all go back every June, and they have a little bit of or late May, whatever it is, and they have a reunion weekend, and you see the camaraderie that program has, and your best recruiting usually comes through your players that are already playing for you, and everybody knows everybody through probably 2 or 3 degrees of separation. So with that being said, he had a lot of good things to say about Dan, and more importantly for Dan, I think it was an opportunity for him to lean on somebody that he could trust in making his decision on where he wants to start his pro career, and could really ask Daryl a lot of the questions that a first-year player wants to ask, and I think he felt comfortable with the situation here in Stockton, and obviously I felt comfortable not only with Daryl's recommendation, but the program that he's coming from, that he can be an impact player for us, and a guy who's going to fit right into the chemistry and the types of things that we're trying to do here.
Less teams in the ECHL this next season mean less jobs. So with that being said, in a competitive offseason at hand right now, what's the process like in trying to land a prospect like him?
Well, you know what? Dan's a guy that we got done pretty early here in the middle of June, pending contract approvals from the league and getting all that stuff back to us. It was a longer process than it actually was, but I had real good conversations with his agent, and I think his agent was looking for an opportunity, as Dan was, to come to the right spot where he was going to get the right type of development as a first-year player. And I think when you've had success with guys like Chris Delvise, who comes in as a first-year guy who doesn't really have himself on the radar of the NHL and the American Hockey League, but comes away with 34 goals as a rookie and makes such an impact the way he did. I think it sets the tone for you to be able to get some more impact type players like a guy like Dan Bartlett. But I think the one thing that everyone out there and all the players that are looking to sign contracts and wanting to play pro, it's going to be a tough year, just because there is going to be a lot of players available, a lot of quality players, and a lot of it's going to come down to who's going to be the right fit. And the one thing that I know is that we need a guy that can make plays happen at the toughest times, and that's the one thing Dan Bartlett can do. So I'm really looking forward to him coming in and replacing some of our graduating scoring guys like J.F. Cadrone and Oren Eisenman that have moved on. I'm looking for another impact type player like those two that's going to come in here and be able to change the game with one play, and Dan certainly has a history of doing that.
He has the skills, he has the scoring credentials, so when training camp hits, what does he have to do to help separate himself from the rest of the pack?
Well, when you're a goal scorer, you better score. When you're a playmaker, you better make plays. The one thing everyone's going to have to do is they're going to have to adapt to my system and the team identity that we're looking for. And obviously that team identity hasn't been forged completely right now. It's I have a certain way that I envision my teams playing, but as we go through this recruiting process and this offseason of signings, a lot of it will be dictated on the types of players that we have. But Dan can certainly add an element that every team needs. I think the one thing for him, that he's just got to do what he does best. And again, I can't stress enough how important it is for him coming from a program like Princeton, where I know that those players need to play a team game. They need to be committed to the system, and they need to play for each other. And I think anytime you can add a player that has all those qualities, and then on top of that a skill level that's through the roof, is certainly a good addition for our club. And I'm looking forward to getting Dan out here in training camp and really seeing just how gifted he is.